Hi there, you're listening to the Estranged Heart podcast, and I'm your host, Kreed Revere. Welcome back to our returning listeners, and if this is your first time here, thank you for selecting this podcast to listen to. As we begin today's episode, I invite you to grab a cup of coffee or tea, settle in, and listen with an open heart. But first, the regular disclaimer. I am not a licensed therapist or counselor. Nothing within this podcast should be considered or taken as therapy. If you are in need of therapeutic support such as counseling, please seek out a therapist near you. Hi there, and welcome back to the Estranged Heart podcast. Today, I wanted to take a moment to thank those of you who sent messages and checked in regarding the safety of me and my family, having just experienced Hurricane Milton here in Florida. We did not experience damages to our homes, and each of us are physically in good health. And for that, I am super grateful. That being said, it's taken me several days to recover from the mental toll that this experience took on me. And as a result of that and the work that I do in this community of estrangement and reconciliation, I haven't decided if I want to do an episode on this or only a blog post. But I think that there were lots of correlations between hurricanes and estrangement, and um, it's something that I thought quite a bit about as I was sitting and listening to the howling winds and the gusts that multiple times I thought were going to break every window in the house, and just wondering where we would be on the other side of that. And so I think that there are some lessons in that for us who are in this estrangement community. So be watching for that. On the other side of that hurricane, we are still dealing with a lack of fuel in my area. Also, grocery store shelves that are empty. I thought it was really interesting. I went to place an order today to have groceries delivered, and uh, the soonest I could have them delivered, I'm recording this on Sunday. The soonest I could have them delivered was next Saturday. So if that gives you any indication. And uh, Hurricane Milton came through on Wednesday and Thursday of last week. So things aren't back to normal in all ways here. And again, I think it's kind of interesting in how this can correlate to estrangement. When we think that we're out of the woods and out of, things can get back to normal, maybe not so much. So again, thank you to those of you who reached out. I am super grateful for your concern and your caring and compassionate hearts. Thank you. As a result of Hurricane Milton, I did cancel the validation workshop that was scheduled for Sunday, the 13th of October, simply because I did not know if I was going to have power or what have you, and I did not want to be in a place where I may not have been able to have reached everyone to cancel and etc. So that workshop will be rescheduled. Right now, I'm thinking the end of October, first weekend of November, but I will be giving that information out as soon as I have a solid date. Also, there is an option to now leave voice messages if you would like to leave a voice message for me and or potentially have a voice message shared on the podcast. You may do so. And the link for that will be in the show notes. As a reminder, there is a current cohort of support groups that are happening right now for estranged moms and reconciled moms. So if you are interested in joining the next cohort that will begin in mid-November, please let me know. Feel free to email me at theestrangedheart@gmail.com. Again, theestrangedheart@gmail.com. And I would love to be able to help support you throughout the holidays and into the beginning of 2025. So I know that's extremely challenging time for most estranged folks, and I would really um, like to be able to help you with that. And it can be a challenging time for those who are recently reconciled. And what do we do? How do we handle the holidays? And what should I ask? And should I invite? And all of those questions. So if you're interested in that, again, please email me, and I'm happy to put you on the list. With that being said, let's get on with today's episode. So today's episode is titled, Why is She Reconciled and I'm Still Estranged? This is a question that I get fairly often from moms who reach out to me for a consultation and or coaching or in my Facebook support group. And so I wanted to address a few things that I think are important when we're asking this question. And I think it's a valid and fair question to ask, right? So, our quote for today is, Reconciliation requires more than time. It demands patience, self reflection, and a willingness to change. Healing begins when we stop chasing and start listening. Okay? And that quote is by me. So, the contrast between mothers um, who are reconciled or working on reconciliation with their adult children and those who remain estranged is quite distinct, looking at it through the lens of an estrangement coach. Um, I can see it in the posts that are being made in groups, and I hear it when I'm talking with estranged parents, whether that's in a support group, whether that's a coaching, again, consultation, what have you. Um, I wanted to share some insights as an estrangement coach, having worked with a number of moms in different stages of reconciliation, different stages of estrangement, and kind of what I notice in patterns, and why one mother may become reconciled and another mother may not. Um, I want to say that this is a compassionate discussion. It's not about blaming. Okay, let me say that again. This is not about blaming. It's about reflection and understanding. Okay. Um, when we are when we are in the beginning stages, new stages of estrangement, it's really, really difficult to see much of what I'm going to say right now. Okay. And understand that what you may be experiencing as a newly estranged mom, all of those thoughts and feelings are normal, they're valid. You need to feel them, you need to experience them in order to move through them. Okay. The caveat there is that sometimes we can get stuck in those thoughts and feelings and not able to move through when we lack curiosity about self in the beginning, right? So when I've talked previously about my estrangement, that piece came in with, I can no longer stand to be here in this mental space that I'm in. I have to do something different. I don't know what it is, but I got to find it. That's curiosity. What can I do differently to get me out of this space that I'm currently in? Okay. I was able to process a lot of those feelings that I had at the time because I was in therapy and I was able to process them with my therapist. Okay. I did not have friends. As those who know my story, most of my friends left. Most of my friends did not know what to say to me, didn't know how to talk to me about what I was experiencing. So I really did not have anyone other than my therapist to help me to process my thoughts and feelings around all of this. So she allowed me to do that. And I firmly believe, because I see it in my own coaching practice now, that when people are able to process, talk about, verbally process, say the things they need to say, they are able to begin the process of moving through those feelings and thoughts. We tend to get stuck when we don't have that option. When we just ruminate over and over and over again, the thoughts are swirling, all of that, and there's no one there to help us to verbally process through what we're experiencing. Okay? So I just wanted to say that up front. This is not about blaming anyone. It's not about shaming anyone. It's about reflection and understanding. Okay. So if you're not in that space to be able to do some self reflection and trying to understand a bigger picture, maybe bookmark this episode and come back to it at a later time. Okay. So I've talked often on this podcast about what it takes to reconcile. Okay. And those things are, they're really, I mean, they're really quite quote unquote simple, meaning it's not something that is just totally out there from left field, right? It might feel that way in the beginning, but the more that you get curious, the more that you do some self reflection, the more that you work on trying to understand the bigger picture, it really isn't. It isn't a far grasp. Okay. So the keys to fostering reconciliation are patience, and we've talked about this before. Patience, respecting their boundaries, right? Respecting the boundaries our adult children have laid down for us. And maybe trying to understand what boundaries are, right? And trying to learn about that. And when I say learn about that, I mean don't just go to one Facebook group and ask and get 20 replies and take that as the gospel of what boundaries are. Do some research, get on YouTube, listen to podcasts, have a consultation with an estrangement coach, figure out what boundaries are, right? And why they are needed and why it's important to honor those. Okay. Healing our own wounds. I come back to this time after time after time after time. And this, in my opinion, is probably the crux of what stops many parents from reconciling is that they either refuse to, and with refusal, if I'm looking at this through a compassionate lens, that refusal is coming because they are absolutely petrified and scared to death of quote unquote going there. Or they simply think they don't have any wounds, right? Um, to know that we have wounds from past experiences in life, we have to have some sort of ability to have experience in self reflection, experience in questioning, those types of things. And as we know, boomer parents and many of the Gen X parents did not grow up at a time when that was the thing to do. As a matter of fact, oftentimes those parents were punished for being curious. They were punished for asking questions. And they were often the questions that made their own parents uncomfortable or challenged their own parents' wounds and their life experiences. So these generations were not taught, by and large, to be curious about anything. They were told, do as I say, don't question me, don't question authority. And so there is a true not knowing that they have inner wounds. Okay? So either it's they don't know or they absolutely fear stepping into that space. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients, people in my support groups, people on my online support groups, is in helping to create a safe space that will allow them to feel safe enough to dip their toe in the water to explore themselves. Okay. Other things is invalidating their child's experience, not validating what the child is coming to them and saying are some of the issues or challenges. Um, and then the second piece is an unwillingness to change. Um, and that's what stands in the way. So we have to have a willingness to change. We have to validate our children. We have to honor their boundaries. We need patience and we need to heal our wounds. And we need to follow the adult child's lead. Therein comes patience, right? A lot of parents want oh, we're reconciled now, and so we get to be adult. We get to have an adult to adult relationship. And the answer to that is no, not normally. If you have that, count yourself lucky. Probably the two of you, the parent, the adult child, have done a crap ton of self-reflection, inner work on self, and you're able to have that. But most parent and adult child relationships are not equal, not for quite some time. So in this space of following their lead, um, it's really in moving again from that manager role into the role of the consultant, and it helps to um, it conveys respect to your adult child, and it allows them to trust you. It helps to rebuild trust when we can follow their lead, when we can say to them, in essence, I trust you to take the next steps, right? That we don't have to manage that and control it. So, those are some of the things to foster reconciliation. What stands in the way? What are roadblocks to reconciliation? Chasing the adult child. Oh my gosh, we want it and we want it now. We want reconciliation right this moment. We want them to talk to us right now. They reach out and they send us a text, and then we're bombarding them with follow-up text, and then we want to know why they don't respond, right? It's in really stepping back, really pulling back and being patient. Okay, I tell the story of a client of mine who was in the reconciliation stages with her adult child, and she just kept saying, "I don't know if we're reconciled. I don't think we're reconciled," because the communication was coming into by dips and drips and drabs, and very very slowly compared to what the mom wanted, and I'm happy to report that mom is had continuous contact, increased amount of contact with her adult child, and things are rolling right along. But it was because she pulled back and remained patient. It's not because she wanted to. Trust me. In our sessions, she was really wanting to push things forward and to keep reaching out to the adult child and saying, "Hey, can we connect?" And "Hey, can we have a conversation?" And "Hey, can we talk on the phone?" And all these things. And when I helped her to remind her of what being patient was doing, it was helping her adult child to have trust, rebuilding trust in her, that she was not going to push the adult child. She was not going to make it all about her as the mom, things like that. It began to help rebuild that trust. So, roadblocks to reconciliation, chasing the adult child, making things about the mother as opposed to the child. So, um, as an example, it's having the narrative centered around the mother's pain can derail the reconciliation. And an example of that is a mother who consistently says things like, "You're hurting me by not speaking to me," versus understanding why her adult child needed distance, right? Um, and let me just say, as a side note, it's okay for you to have those feelings as a mom, as an estranged mom. It's okay for you to have the feelings of they're hurting me by not speaking to me. Those are valid feelings, but they're not valid feelings for you to go and share with your adult child. Those are feelings you share with your inner circle, with your therapist, with your coach, so that you know that the words that you're saying are safe and they're not going to get back to your adult child to make your adult child feel a certain kind of way around that, right? A refusal to look within, talking about healing our own wounds, right? Um, I'm telling you, the way that you were raised, your own wounds played a part in how you parented your adult child or how you parented your children and continued to try to manage and parent them as adults. So looking within is absolutely needed. A refusal to change, we talked about that previously, that I'm the parent, therefore I know best. I've got 3 decades, 4 decades of experience on you. I think I know better than you do. That type of mindset is not gonna help you to reconcile. Okay. And viewing the adult child as spoiled or entitled, and they're just doing this to hurt me. That is not going to help move the needle because then remain stuck instead of being in that place of being willing to change. You remain stuck. It's about them. They're doing this to me. They're the ones who have to change. If you have that mindset, you will not reconcile. Or if you do reconcile, it will not last. Okay. And the goal and the work that I do is to help parents and adult children to reconcile and reconcile for life so that they have new and healthy relationships with one another so they don't ever have to experience estrangement again. Okay. So, actionable steps that you can take, right? Questions to ask yourself, things like this. Reflect on your own journey, reflect on your life, reflect on your hurts and pains and things that happened in your life and how they may differ today for people in today's generations, right? And start to see maybe there's value and worth in what is being done today versus what wasn't done back when you were young. Okay. Are you fostering reconciliation or are you unknowingly putting up roadblocks? Okay. Have I healed my own wounds? Am I listening and validating my child's experience? To change is a challenge for most all human beings. Yet, the potential for growth and a renewed relationship is worth every bit of what is uncomfortable. And I can attest to that personally and professionally. I see it with my clients. All of them, without fail, come to me and say, "Oh my gosh, everything I've learned here has helped me in all of my relationships. It's completely changed my life for the better because I'm showing up differently. I'm showing up differently in all of my relationships, and therefore my relationships of the other people in my life are showing up differently for me." And there is no greater compliment than that because the way that they're showing up both the client and the people in their lives, to include their adult children when it's time for that reconciliation, is in kind and compassionate ways. And so we're healing the world one heart at a time. Instead of harboring anger and resentment and victim mode and all of these things, we're sitting in a place of compassion when we do our own inner work and we begin to set one foot in front of the other to effect change. Is it scary? Yes. Is it unknown? Yes. Is it a risk? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. So, I want to say this as I begin to close. I know the question that many of you have been screaming throughout this episode is, but what if they won't talk to me, Kreed? What if they won't have contact with me, Kreed? What if I have no way to reach out to them? I hear you. I hear you. And that's frustrating, and that's hurtful, and that leaves us feeling at times very hopeless. I am here to tell you, if you will do this work, regardless of whether or not you reconcile, you will eventually come to a place where you will allow your child to have their space and their time, and it will not feel like a knife in your heart. You will be able to be patient and wait for them until they are ready. Other people will begin talking about the change in you, and that will eventually trickle back to your adult child in most cases. Not all, but most. But the important piece of this is that you will find an inner peace, inner hope, and an inner stillness where you can sit with yourself, you can sit within this estrangement in a place of acceptance. And that, my friend, is a game changer. That is when the game begins to change. This isn't about winning a game. This isn't about losing a game. It is about standing in a place of, this is my reality today, and here I am. I'm showing up for myself first. And the others that want to come along, that is fantastic. And the others that do not or are not able to come along right now, I wish them well on their journey. And they're welcome to join my journey when they're ready. I want to thank you for listening to this episode. I hope that you've listened all the way through. I know that many of you feel stuck. Many of you feel hopelessness. And I just want to tell you, there's so much more available to you, even if you are currently estranged and not yet reconciled. Seek support through coaching, through support groups, therapy to explore what I've talked about today further. I invite you to have a conversation around this on the social media channels for the Estranged Heart. And if you're looking for more personal support to help you to navigate this, if something I have said today stands out to you and you want more peace in your life and you want to move through the grief and through the pain and into something more healthy for you, please feel free to reach out. The Estranged Heart at gmail.com. Until next time. This brings this episode to a close. I hope that this time together was time you feel well spent, and that you are able to find some takeaway nuggets to help you on your journey, wherever you may be on your estrangement and reconciliation path. If you feel you've received something helpful or positive from this podcast, please consider following us, sharing this podcast with others, leaving a positive review, perhaps entertaining becoming a guest on our show, or following us on social media, on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok under the same name, The Estranged Heart. As a reminder, there is an online support group on Facebook. If you are a estranged mom who identifies as being spiritual and approaches estrangement with a sense of curiosity rather than blame and judgment, and desire to do inner self-work and reflection, please seek us out. We can be found at facebook.com/estranged mothers support group. And lastly, if you are an estranged parent or an estranged adult child and would like to have your story shared on the podcast, anonymously or not, please reach out to me via email at theestrangedheart@gmail.com.